my mind chip or kicking things off already. Blake getting the Town Store and the Binding Mochi already attached. If this Pokemon in the active spot is poisoned, its attacks do 40 extra damage. Cloth kind of already hits like a truck, and now it's able to reach these bigger numbers that were holding it back before.
Yeah, of course, that unhinged Scissors attack dealing 30 base damage, and then 160 more damage if the Cloth is affected by a special condition. And the main way Blake is going to be activating that clause is by utilizing the Brute Bonnet that he does play in the deck. Its ability, Toxic Powder, if it has a Ancient Booster Energy Capsule attached to it, you can poison both active Pokemon, except for, of course, Ancient Pokemon usually will have that Ancient Booster Capsule, keeps you away from those special conditions and all of that. But right away, Blake just grabs the Ultra Ball for the Squawk ability. That tells me that his hand is not super strong, and we're going to see that Squawk and Seize.
You've got to dig a little deeper. There's a lot of moving parts in this list. This has been the binary with Cloth. If you get established, you can just start wailing on your opponent, hit after hit after hit. But can you find all the pieces? Brute Bonnet, Ancient Booster Capsule, and Hisuian Heavy Ball, maybe getting a second Cloth. The missing piece here is a double Turbo Energy.
Yeah, double Turbo Energy, being able to set up for the attack on the next turn. Blake does grab out that Bloodmoon Ursaluna, which is a great attacking option at the end of the game. Kind of nice card that can just slot into so many decks so well since its attacks are all colorless. And thanks to Blake playing 4 double Turbo Energy, he can actually use that Bloodmoon Ursaluna maybe a little bit earlier than some other decks would be able to utilize it thanks to its seasoned skill ability.
And with that base damage of 240 or 220, as the case may be, we'll have to see, you have to be very picky about what targets you might be able to take down later on in the game. But against another single prize deck, it's just going to be an all-out slugfest. Whichever one of these players misses a beat could fall irreparably behind. But the Toxic Powder looks like it is now used. Both active Pokemon are poisoned, and with the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler here, it's going to boost the damage that the opponent's poison Pokemon does take.
Yeah, that Poison Peak ability making it so that Okidogi over on Jim's side will be taking 30 damage as opposed to just 10 from that special condition every single turn. Now, it looks like Jim is going to kick things off, and I'm excited to see what we can find from this Okidogi deck. There's a potential for a turn 1 attack here.
Yeah, Blake, even though, can't attack going first, still got a little bit of chip damage, is perfectly established, just still needs to find those energies. There is one copy of Chorus's Tenacity to hopefully search that out, but Jim has to show us now what this Okidogi deck is capable of. If you can attach, let me see, we've got a Legacy Energy in the deck chip and Luminous Energy. This is going to count for fighting and also the Darkness Energy to activate that Adrena Power ability, boosting its HP by 100 and its damage by 100.
Yeah, it's not like Okidogi really hits any specific great numbers into any of the meta decks. Obviously, you hit Terapagos for weakness, so you can one-hit KO that pretty easy. It's really just about being a straightforward, consistent deck that it's a one-prize Pokemon that has a lot of HP and does a reasonable amount of damage. Good punch, is pretty good, it turns out. And the way Jim using his deck list here is going to be setting up these Okidogis is through the use of Experience Share in order to retain energy into play turn after turn as his Okidogis are getting KO'd, but also using Energy Sticker, a card we have not seen too much. He couldn't utilize that in order to potentially get some extra energy cards in play, provided, of course, he can flip heads.
Ooh, I like the beautiful Switch Cart there. Just getting rid of poison, but also healing off that chip damage. And there's the EXP share you were talking about, Chip. Keeping those energies in play is so important to keep up your pressure, to keep up with your opponent's pace. I can imagine this Okidogi deck would be absolutely frustrating for something like a Raging Bolt to chew through all of this HP, potentially forcing a 7-prize game with the Legacy Energy.
It looks like Jim will just hit that attachment to the active.
Professor's Research throws away the hand, still needs to dig deeper the same way we saw Blake do on his first turn with Squawkabilly.
Yeah, off these 7 cards here, I think with the attachment to the active, Jim is recognizing, okay, it's pretty unlikely I'm pulling off an attack this turn. He's trying to set up for maybe a little bit of the future. He's got the attachment to the active, the experience share, EXP share there on the bench. We'll be able to retain that energy in the future turns. He recognized, yeah, it's not super likely I'm going to find Energy Sticker, flip aheads, get Luminous Energy, and switch back into another Okidogi. We'll just send this one up to the active. But here we go, first Energy Sticker.
Okay. Flips it here. Is there any energy in the discard pile? Might want to take that back.
Yeah, can't actually play that card.
Yeah, you don't want to get this mixed up with like Energy Loto, which lets you look at the top of the deck.
Yeah, cannot use Energy Sticker with no energy cards in the discard pile.
So it doesn't get burned. It's not just whiffed and wasted. You just can't play it at all.
Yeah, it's one of the rules of the game. You cannot play a trainer card if it's known that it will have no effect. But Jim actually does have a combination of cards here to get an energy card in the discard pile. I think he maybe just got a little ahead of himself. You know, it's still fine, though. Using this Nest Ball here, he can go grab the Radiant Greninja that he does play as his Radiant Pokemon, and he's got Earthen Vessel in the hand as well to go fetch out a couple of energy cards, and then we can see concealed cards, puts an energy in the discard pile, draws a few cards, and now Energy Sticker can get that attachment.
Jim getting into the game because of his child, 3-0 at a regional, throwing him up on stream. You know, there's a lot of thoughts swirling through his head, but you've got to stick to your game plan, Chip. You mentioned this is kind of a straightforward deck. Just get set up and start attacking, and I think now we're starting to see him find his groove. Earthen Vessel fishing out 2 basic fighting energy from the deck. One of these will be discarded with concealed cards to get a little bit more draw. There's already been the attachment for turn, of course, to the active, and we will see if Energy Sticker will allow Jim to take the first hit and maybe take over the tempo of this game. Concealed cards used. What are those 2? Another energy, no boss and Luminous, I think.
Yeah, the Luminous will be nice in the future. Like you mentioned earlier, it provides both the fighting and darkness energy. So with just that one attachment, Adrena power, that ability will be used. And unfortunately, yes, it is indeed a Tails on the Energy Sticker. No extra energy cards in play for Jim, and he's just forced to pass.
That's not too bad. Hopefully, you know, if this Okidogi in the active does go down, EXP share will keep that energy in play, and Jim does have the guaranteed attack next time. But now it is over to Blake. Still the cloth taking a little bit of damage because it is poisoned, stuck in the active.
Yeah,
Town Store being used for, what is that, Chip?
Looks like it was a rescue board grabbed and played immediately onto the Radiant, Hisuian Sneasler, and then also utilizing Artazon as the stadium here to fetch out another basic non-rule box Pokemon and put it directly onto the bench. We're actually going to see that Pecharunt come into play, that promo Pecharunt here with its toxic subjugation ability. As long as it's in the active spot, you put 5 more damage counters on your opponent's poison Pokemon during Pokemon checkup. So this can really stack up with that Hisuian Sneasler. The Radiant Hisuian Sneasler mostly is going to be utilized to, you know, pick up cheeky one-hit knockouts. Turn 1 going first against like little creepies and stuff like that.
The horrible rumors swirling about the Pecharunt Turn 1 KO deck when this promo was revealed, Chip. Gives this cloth a lot more utility.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, though. I don't really think it's super good in this matchup, so I'm a little surprised to see it being put into play from Blake. I don't really think he'll be utilizing it basically ever. But it looks like it's just going to have to be that unhinged scissors. No, actually no double turbo energy was found.
The energy's still not found. So this, again, throws the ball right back into Jim O'Brien's court to take a knockout here and try to get through. With decks like this, right, Chip, we saw the single prize race from back in the day. If you take that first prize, you're massively ahead. There is an incredibly unlikely turn of events where Radiant Greninja gets enough luminous energy to try to use Moonlight Shuriken, but it's going to come down to the back and forth of this early mid-game and maybe Bloodmoon Ursaluna deciding things for both of these players.
Jim will use the Artazon from Blake's end to grab this Tatsugiri, a card that's pretty solid that we just really haven't seen too much yet. Its Attract Customer's ability lets you look at the top few cards of your deck in order to search for a supporter card and add it to your hand. And Jim actually has a pretty nice play lined up here. He's got the Luminous Energy already in the hand. He's going to attach it to this Okidogi. And he's also got Boss's Orders here. So he's got a few options of what he could go after. The Radiant Hisuian Sneasler to limit the boosted damage in the future could be okay, but honestly, I think targeting down the Brute Bonnet would be a really strong play here from Jim O'Brien. Let's see if he goes for it.
Oh yeah, because now that the Town Store has been bumped, it'll be harder to fish out another Ancient Capsule, get that reestablished, that free poison with Toxic Powder. And don't forget, now Okidogi has plus 100 HP, a little bit of extra damage to boot.
And well, you know what here? The Brute Bonnet is actually not weak to fighting. A lot of Darkness Pokemon, you know, it's kind of a mix. Some will be weak to fighting, some will be weak to grass. With the Brute Bonnet having that Ancient Booster Energy Capsule attached to it, it actually would not be able to be KO'd.
Okay,
Good
then.
Punch deals 170 damage. Brute Bonnet boosted all the way up to 180 right now. Jim is still going to be able to get
Good
ahead in the
catch there.
prize trade here, which is really strong in these one prize matchups. So Jim is definitely putting himself in an excellent position. Let's see how Blake is able to respond. Does he find the double turbo energy? That is the big thing here.
That's the hardest piece to find in this list, certainly. After that knockout, though, has access to Pheasantipity. Try to get a little bit more card draw, hopefully.
And he's got the perfect card to find the double turbo energy here. Colress's Tenacity, searching the deck for a stadium card and an energy card, not a basic energy card, any energy card, and adding it to the hand. That grabs the double turbo energy, so we will at least see a guaranteed attack here now from Blake.
Hisuian Sneasler has the rescue board attached, of course. This is just a free retreat now to see where the rest of your turn is going, what cards you're able to find before you decide what needs to be in the active. Now there's Retreat Cloth with an energy attaches in the active spot. Here comes the combination. Toxic Powder, poisoning both active Pokemon. The Okidogi already has 60 on it from previous poison turns. And it's going to be a classic Unhinged Scissors.
And that will be enough for the KO. Okidogi does have a ton of HP, but not quite able to hang on here. Now, I do believe it was knocked out by damage from the attack, not knocked out by poison, which is a key differentiator here because now that EXP share on the bench will still be able to be used to bring that extra energy. It is only when it's knocked out by damage from an attack. So if Blake can ever, map out some ways where the Okidogi is KO'd by poison, it would not necessarily trigger the EXP share.
Is that also a way to get around Legacy Energy, Chip?
It is a way to get around Legacy Energy as well. It's when the Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack, and that is the A-spec of choice here in Jim's deck.
We thought that this was going to be just a get set up and start punching sort of deck, but there's a lot of nuance to how you can manipulate this damage. Who knows if Blake can do something cheeky with that Petulant down the road to facilitate that play.
Now, Jim does need to find a Luminous Energy or a Legacy Energy here in order to get a knockout with this Okidogi and keep up the tempo, keep up the pace here in this game. He chose not to send up the Tatsugiri here, chose to just send up the Okidogi right away. Already has a supporter in hand, so I guess that does make sense now. We'll be able to search the deck here with this Arven. Is going to be looking for that Energy Lotto here, digging for either the Legacy or the Luminous. Is he going to be able to find it from the top 7? That's the big question.
Ooh, and the rescue board was found off of Arven. If he did have that already in hand, could have attached to the Tatsugiri, got another attract customers, setting up for future turns.
And that also would thin one more card out, right? If you send up the Tatsugiri, you give yourself a chance to find a supporter card, add it to your hand, and then you increase your chances of finding an energy card here. And that's really what it's going to come down to this turn. Is Jim O'Brien able to find a Legacy or Luminous Energy to get this knockout to keep up pace?
And just remember this part, people in the audience, that there are small things that you can do to increase the efficiency, increase your odds ever so slightly for your cards to hit. But Jim goes for Energy Lotto. Let's look at these 7 cards.
It's going to be pretty big here. Does he find Legacy or Luminous?
I don't think he...
Oh, there is the Legacy Energy. That is huge, and that is a good one to find as well because it will, like we've mentioned, mean that Blake will take one less prize card for KOing this Okidogi, assuming it gets KO'd by damage. Now, we got to do a little bit of math here to figure some things out. There's a lot of things going on with the Okidogi being poisoned, with the poison ability from the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler adding some damage. We'll have to figure out exactly how the math works out. Is Legacy Energy going to save that prize card for Jim?
230 HP. We can cancel out the 30 because of the poison ticking in between turns. Unhidden Scissors, as you mentioned, is 30.
That's going to be the difference maker, right? With the double turbo energy being attached to a cloth, the cloth is dealing 170 damage. If you can get the Binding Mochi on it to boost it by 40, that's up to 210 damage, and then that would mean that the Okidogi is being KO'd between turns from the poison, from that special condition during Pokemon Checkup, and Legacy Energy would not activate.
So Blake DeChico needs to commit to finding another Binding Mochi. Had already preemptively bumped the Town Store, but could still draw into it somehow, Chip. Jim still establishing his next few turns, has a Nest Ball. Looking through the deck, I see that cheeky Mime Jr. Not really relevant for this matchup, but who knows what's going to happen down the road.
Yeah, the Mime Jr. is actually a really funny card to see in this deck. I'm not really sure what specific matchup it's good against here, because you use that attack, it's free, and your opponent chooses one of their attacks in play for you to utilize. So in certain metas, you know, if there's decks that really only have a couple of Pokemon in play, you know, something like Iron Thorns EX, for example, there's only one choice, one attack that your opponent can choose to give you, and it gives you like a free attack into that Iron Thorns, which could be nice. I don't know that it would come up really in this instance. I think Blake would just happily choose like Motivate or something like that from Squawkabilly. So I don't think we'll see the Mime Jr., but it's cool to see it in this list regardless.
But after double-checking the numbers, Cloth does go down. Blake now down 2 attackers in this list. Has to find another double turbo energy as well to crack back against this onslaught. There is only 1 copy of Colress's Tenacity, which is a big part of the matchup, Chip. If you can't keep up your attacks, if Jim gets a 2-prize lead, 3-prize lead, Cloth doesn't have that multi-prize comeback potential that Lost Zone used to enjoy using Sableye.
I think here for Blake, you'd love to see the Pheasantipity EX come into play, flip the script, draw some cards, you know, something was just knocked out. That's really what he's going to need, and he is eyeing it up. We'll grab the Binding Mochi here, so this is setting up for a pretty strong play. With the Binding Mochi, it will boost the Cloth's damage up to 210 after, of course, the double turbo energy reduction. So really it's just going to come down to if off of this flip for the script, does Blake find the double turbo energy? He has everything else he needs to still get a prize card this turn.
All right, flip the script. 3 cards. Let's see it, Chip.
There's a Secret Box, a Jet Energy, not quite enough.
Secret Box? Can Secret Box do it?
Secret Box can find you a supporter card, which can help you draw more cards. In this instance, you know, Blake has already utilized that Colress's Tenacity. He does just play the 1 copy. So it will be Secret Box here, and it's going to come down to what supporter does he find here and what can that supporter card find for him.
Yeah, unfortunately, the bench is full. No Luminion V or Hisuian Electrode V to hold the Forest Seal Stone to search out that last piece.
And his supporter options are really kind of light as far as ones that draw him cards. He's got a few options here. It looks like Arven could grab the Energy Lotto. We could see the same thing that Jim did, right? Energy Lotto for the energy card you need. Does need to grab the... Oh, yeah, actually, the Secret Box can just get all of these pieces. Of course, Secret Box grabbing you the tool card, the item card, the supporter card, and also a Stadium. No Stadium to grab here. Doesn't even have to use the Arven. He actually can use Boss's Orders here to target something else down. I do think at the moment, though, the active Okidogi is going to be the best thing to be trying to KO.
Yeah, the Boss will be a nice backup play, but here comes Energy Lotto.
Needs to find double turbo energy.
Oh, and finds it. Double turbo is attached. Blake DeChico is going to stay in this game with this energy being found and now attached onto Cloth.
And I think he accidentally put his Energy Lotto back into the deck. Yeah, it's right there. He just picked it up from the table, I think, on accident, and it does need to be put into the discard pile.
All right, that should be all well and good. You're going to shuffle the deck anyway here, right? Wait, no, if you're just looking at the top 7.
Yeah, I think that might be what the judges are saying. He probably should not have picked up his whole deck because he was not doing a complete deck search. Now, he did literally just search his deck with the Town Store, you know, earlier on in this turn into the table. And it looks like it is indeed going to just be a warning at this point. I do like that. You know, I think it is a de-escalation there from the judges. They could have definitely given Blake a 2-prize penalty there, but I think they recognized, hey, you know, a little bit of a mistake, a little bit of a slip-up, no big deal. And we actually will see the Boss's Orders bringing up this other Okidogi and taking the knockout on it. It does only have 100 and... Oh, it's actually not even going to be the knockout here. It has 180 HP, and the Cloth here is swinging for 170 damage. So it will be KO'd going back into Blake's turn.
Yeah, I thought...
the Poison will get this KO here, from the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler will be boosting that up.
And Blake had the Binding Mochi, I had thought.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Maybe going to try to set up that sneaky play to get around the Legacy Energy.
Yeah, I'm wondering here if maybe Blake doesn't realize that he could have KO'd the Okidogi with the Legacy Energy and still gotten a prize card because of the poison between turns. Could be a little bit of a mistake there on Blake's end, maybe not quite realizing exactly how things shaked up.
And with the final Cloth in the active spot, it seems that every time Jim takes a knockout, Blake has to jump through so many hoops to get the response KO. With Tatsugiri now in the active Rescue Board, figuring out How many extra supporters can I pull out of the deck? Keep thinning. Making my energy lottos ever so slightly better is great. Now Jim is on the cusp of getting 2 Okidogis established.
Yeah, I think Jim is probably very thankful that this Okidogi did not go down, right? Even if Blake had not gotten a prize card from it, which he would have based on how the math works out, even if Blake had not gotten a prize card, I think just forcing Jim to establish another attacker would have been the really difficult thing to have happen. It would have basically involved Jim having to flip aheads on an energy sticker, and he's already played 2 energy stickers. He actually only has 3 in his list. So the fact that this Okidogi on the bench gets to stick around for another turn, it gives him another chance to establish this next Okidogi, which is going to have now even more hit points with the combination of the Luminous Energy and the Bravery Charm. Things are looking actually pretty nice here for Jim O'Brien, I'd say.
Yeah, Blake DeChico had to pick his poison, trying to head off the Okidogi with the Bravery Charm. If that gets a Luminous on it, maybe the HP is a little bit too big for Cloth to really deal with outside of having a multitude of factors with the Binding Mochi, etc., etc. So you have to say, do I want to get some tempo by taking down the established attacker, or this specific threat of high HP I might not be able to get around otherwise? And after the deck being shuffled up here, after attract customers, Jim is ready to just keep swinging.
Yeah, it's a great spot to be in, to be honest. Going to be able to take the knockout, forcing Blake to establish another attacker yet again. And Blake is getting a little bit low on resources. We've seen a few Cloth go down now at this point. We've seen a few double turbo energies gone down now. Blake is going to have to try to reestablish another attacker here this turn, and we'll see if he's able to do it.
Yeah, Blake really, as you said, Chip, wants to go for a 2-2-2 sort of prize map, and being matched against another single prize deck throws off what this deck wants as a strategy to do, to have these smaller attackers trading up, having this potential math manipulation with the poison, with the toxic powder, with the Binding Mochi. Town Store being used once more. Blake has been on a tour going back and forth from Artazon to the Town Store to Artazon. Whatever he needs out of the deck seems to be there.
Yeah, I don't know that there's any specific tool he needs right now. Looks like it will just be the Ancient Booster Energy Capsule being thinned out. But he needs a replacement Cloth. He needs an attacker here. He, of course, does have the Pheasantipity to work with, flip the script, draw a few extra cards. And I think it's going to have to be a pretty strong 3 cards here for Blake.
There is only 3 Cloth in the deck.
Oh, wow.
You have to make some cuts to include the Petulant and the Pheasantipity and the Blood Moon.
I think all 3 Cloth are in the discard pile.
Absolutely. There is 2 Night Stretcher in the deck, however. The big trouble is getting the double turbo energy back.
And this is a nice way to get a prize card here for Blake. Doesn't have a way to attack with a Cloth, but can poison both active Pokemon and pushes up this Petulant here with Toxic Subjugation. 5 more damage counters between turns, plus the 20 from the Radiant Hisuian Sneasler. 80 poison damage in between turns, enough to KO this Tatsugiri. That's a way to take a prize card without even attacking.
That's impressive. I didn't even see that line right away, but Blake knows I need to stay in this game. I can use Petulant to still take a knockout, keep up in the prize race, buy myself 1 more turn to hopefully find a Night Stretcher or something, or maybe even Bloodmoon Ursaluna here soon.
With 3 prize cards remaining for each of these players, it does feel like Jim is going to be in a solid spot here. He's going to have 2 Okidogi established with a ton of hit points each. Has the basic energy in hand in order to just attach. I like this. He could have gone for the Radiant Greninja to draw a few more cards. He doesn't necessarily need to do that. And he's actually going to go boss his orders to bring up the Pheasantipity EX. It'll take 2 prize cards, put him down to just 1 prize card, and Blake recognizes, I'm not going to be able to win from this board state with just 1 prize remaining for my opponent. Let's go to game 2.
Yeah, no card draw there. They were just making sure that they were, that Jim had his proper Town Store. The players aren't getting their stadiums mixed up. But really great back and forth there, Chip. Excited to show this sort of unique deck off to our audience at home. I know there is a subset of viewers that love these single prize decks. Cloth enjoyers got to ride